Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Thank you. I'll close the public comment period. Moving right along, we move to the, sorry. Okay, moving right along. The next is the treasurer's report only on pages 42 through 47 of the packet. Don't know what's going on. Kevin, if you can hear me, what we're getting is an echo of what's been said that's about 5 seconds delayed from when we say it. Fix it. What we're getting is an echo of what's been said that's about 5 seconds delayed from when we say it.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think I killed it. Sorry about
Fix
that.
it. Called Board of Supervisors Purgatory. Right. What we're getting is an echo of what's been said.
Repetition is the key to learning.
All right.
All right,
Bear
hopefully
with me
Kevin
one
will be
second.
able to address that. Are there any comments about treasurer's report? Next is Commissioner of Revenue report, page 48 in the packet. We're up to 791 depot accounts. That's up from 715 2 years ago. That's a good sign of health of the increase in small businesses in the county. And meals tax is up to the collection January through August of 340,000. That's about 20,000 more than the prior year, 30,000 more than the year before that. So all good trends there. Next is agency and staff reports, VDOT's report only pages 49 through 51 in the packet. Any comments? Next is school matters. Dr. Seitz is not here. Anne Marie, do you have her?
I do.
Thank you.
So this budget amendment 2024-13 is for, it is a fixed amount of a grant of $32.56 given to each school was eligible for it. It is for administrative cost allocation for the school food program, and it can only be used within the school food program to reimburse them for costs incurred to support the EBT food program. Anyway, it is simply the acceptance and disbursement of the grant.
Motion. I'll make the motion to approve request appropriation request form 2024-13.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Jesse. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, social services is report only, pages 53 through 54 of the packet. Next, and this is just a notice from the Department of Planning, ordinance amendment 2023-02 submitted by Mr. Leonard Powell amending Article 10 waterfront commercial was withdrawn by the applicant. Therefore, this application will not be considered this evening at the public hearing scheduled at 7 o'clock. Next item is Middlesex County Water Authority update. Greg, welcome back. And Jim, good to see you.
Afternoon. Is it on? Okay. So the last time we talked or updated was January of this year. So I'm going to update you since January. So since then, we're up to 718 customers. So that's up 12 new customers since December of last year, which is great. I'd like for it to be higher, but that's still a good number. Our peak month to date, we pumped 4 million gallons in July of this year. So that's our peak so far. The prior peak was September of last year, 3.2 million gallons. And our peak billing was 59,000, which was also in July of this year. The prior peak was 49,000 in October. So we're still growing. We haven't had a full year of revenue, but we're very close to having a full year of revenue and seeing things stabilize and seeing where we are. Our permitted usage is 16 million gallons a month. So our peak month of 4 million gallons, we're still well below what we're permitted to withdraw from the ground. So plenty of room for growth. We still have, last time we discussed, we had a lot of customers, about 60% who had a water meter, but weren't able to connect yet for whatever reason, chose not to, or there was a shortage of plumbers at the time. That number has gone down drastically. From 60%, we have about 14% of our customers now who have a meter, but have not yet connected to the meter. And that's about 100 customers. Okay. Financially, for the current fiscal year, so the budgeted year, July going forward, we do expect a small shortfall in revenues versus expenses. So expenses will be over revenues by about $75,000. It's not too alarming. We really have not had a full, like I said earlier, a full fiscal year of operation. So we still are a little bit ambiguous on our revenues. We don't think they'll go down, but there's potential for them to go up for people connecting and just for more usage. Inflation has hammered us. Example, we were paying $4,100 to connect a meter 2 years ago. Now we're paying about $6,500. So I mean, that's a 56% increase. And we've seen increases in chemicals, materials, and services. So the price of everything is, as no surprise, has hurt us on expenses. And we still have a 6-month lead time on if I try to order a meter setter for a new customer, it's 6 months to get one. So we have to order things in advance, and things still aren't stable out there. But with that said, the shortfall is not unexpected. When the planning was done, we expected we'd have shortfalls in early years, so it's not a surprise. But we will be considering rate adjustment in the coming months to counter that. The key for us is to keep our reach reasonable. Is we got to grow customers. We can do cost control, but we really need customer growth, and we're seeing 12 customers this year. We hope that continues. But our real focus needs to be, we have the system, now let's get more people used to it, increase the customer growth, increase the revenue. Just some miscellaneous things. The pressures in the system are continue to be excellent. Areas we were worried about originally that we're going to have some pressure problems at the far ends have not been a problem at all. In fact, some areas of pressure has been too high. Our system's been used for a number of fires in the county, and reportedly things have gone very well with that so far. It'd be nice to have more hydrants out there closer to fires, because it's still a lot of fill a truck and pump to it, but that comes with expansion. And then on the customer side, we have implemented some payment systems. So we have a web page for the MWA. You can pay by credit card now, which was a big customer demand. You can pay by ACH now. You can go on a web page and look up your usage and all that kind of stuff. And that's been well received by the customers. And that's really all I had for the update. So any questions?
Yep, I got a couple, as usual.
Well, that's for great.
the shortfall that you talked about on your balance sheet, is that has the increased cost that we have, is that being passed currently on to the customer or not?
No, not yet.
I would assume it
So our
was.
rates have not
with the
changed since
shortfall.
we started.
Okay, and what was the target date of where you may be relooking at that?
Probably the next board meeting, probably November, we'll start talking about it.
Okay, okay,
Public hearing in January.
And we do have to have a public hearing. So if we agree to something in January, we'd have a public hearing in January
okay.
to go over it.
And do you foresee, or what's your best guess your best guess on as the sewer starts to roll in, do you have any kind of projection on what you think water hookup will happen when that happens?
We don't, other than it can't be anything but positive. I mean, we need to grow. We
I
need to
would
have
think
more
so as
customers.
well.
So.
Yeah.
That's why we're not too alarmed about, we just don't know enough about what the future is.
I would almost turn that around to you guys, because you control where sewer is gonna go, what the rates are gonna be, you know, that'll really determine how many people that need sewer will therefore have to hook up to water. So I
Right.
hope we can work together to make that a good package and
Okay,
have sewer be successful and
good,
grow water up as well.
good.
Okay.
Last question I have for you is, and it may have been in here, but I tell you, it's been a long 2 days and going through a lot of this, but where do you stand on the total budget for the project?
Oh, the project's been closed. And we were
About
within,
300,000 under, I
Yeah.
believe has been. on.
we
Okay.
were just under.
Wonderful. Well, if
But-
we,
You know,
And that's inclusive of exceeding the number of customers that they anticipated by close to 200.
okay, good, good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate what you do.
I got one more question too. I
Oh,
haven't
sorry,
finished.
sorry,
No, I
sorry.
haven't finished. I was just wondering, when this first started, we said it would be no mandatory hookups. Is that still gonna be the same thing as we go on now? Because I know also sewer, because everything's going up and you have a lot of places that have good water and good sewer. So as it runs, I'm just saying, if the model doesn't work, it doesn't work, right?
We don't have the authority to do that.
Right,
That
we do,
comes-
right.
That comes from you guys.
Okay.
We don't have that authority.
But y'all have the numbers
The
and. what-
closest that we have come to that is we've had neighborhoods ask to hook up.
Mhm.
And there's, 14 people out of 17 want to hook up. And the project has to work. So there may be some peer pressure from the 14 on the other 3 to make the system viable for that new extension. You know what I mean?
Right,
We
right.
gotta
No,
make
I'm saying, I was just,
Every incremental segment has to be breaking.
right, right. Yeah, I just understand that because some board members weren't here when, the process, everything started.
No,
And when it first started, we said, no mandatory hookup. And
Right.
that's just what I'm gonna say, but you
Nothing-
still get,
nothing
because
is
it has to
perfect.
run so long, so far. Where, you're going through good land and then bad land, bad water. So I'm just relaying the message on that, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else?
Thank you, gentlemen. Next is the county engineer update. Sorry. Diving into the details, it's the HRSD Jeremiah, pages 56 through 63.
So, meeting.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Chairman, Board. I also invited Steve Turner to accompany me today. He is the project manager for the overall transmission project. He is a consultant for HRSD who's acting as an external PM for us. So
Give me a Marie just a second. She's
Let me buy her some time. It's finally good to see you in person as opposed to off Zoom. You look much better in 3D than 2 dimension.
just to give an update on the transmission force main. The project 17-mile force main going from the town of Urbana to Matthews. We are using the corridor down Urbana Road, General Fuller Highway, Twigsbury Road, and ending up on a existing transmission force main that we have in Matthews. With that project alignment, we are also going to be installing several pump stations, one at our existing Central Middlesex treatment plants, one at Locust Hill service area, one at the Hartfield, Village of Hartfield. And then we're also installing a new pump station in the town of Urbana to allow for the closure of both the Central Middlesex and the town of Urbana treatment plants. We are also looking to install a pump station in Gloucester to allow for the additional flow coming from Hartfield. So just reiterate the overall service areas that we have within Middlesex, the Saluda, Cook's Corner, Christ Church, sorry, Locust Hill, Topping, Deltaville. Those service areas will be, well, once this transmission force main comes online, it'll be accompanied by some of the Middlesex sewer projects for those service areas. But the overall schedule is the main topic today. So as we are looking through our schedule and we finishing up 100% design, we realized after conversations with several different contractors that it wasn't advantageous of us to go out to bid this month. Due to their current workload and their availability to go after this project. So to make sure that we have a competitive project, we pushed the advertisement out to January of next year. So about a 3-month delay to advertisement to allow for the holiday season to go past and to allow for some competitive bids to come in. With this being about a $40 million overall contract that we're looking to advertise as one package, that we have to take in the line and make sure that we have the right contractors available to accomplish this job. And Stephen may have some additional information on why we're moving the project back, or is that?
No, you pretty much captured it.
Jeremiah, if I may, the contractor shortage, construction company shortage. Is it the effect of the infrastructure money that's just kind of flooding the market right now? What's the best guess of the cause, or is it demographic changes?
I think there's several reasons for the workload of our contractors and availability. It's the COVID slowed down a lot of projects going out to bid over the last 3, 4, 5 years. So with those slowed down projects, they're starting to pick up pace and starting to get back on the street. So that's making the contractors busy and unavailable to accomplish any work. Along with that, you have as you said, the amount of money that's being put into these projects from various sources, grants, and available funding from the government. That does make it difficult for the contractors. Well, it doesn't make it difficult for contractors. They're there to accomplish the task that we provide them, but it's the amount of workforce available to accomplish this task.
Yeah. That seems to be systemic. We've heard something very similar from DEQ staff. Charlie and I have been working with DEQ regarding our grants and our Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund. And they're flooded with funding requests because of all the infrastructure money that's on the street and projects going to bid over the next several years. It's outstripped capacity to really handle all of it. Just hearing what the water authority said too, I guess what I'm leading to, do you think, does HRSD see this as kind of the new normal where you're just really trying to shoot a bullseye on when the best time to bid a project is to get a good response rate, or do you think it's gonna work its way through the system and get back to a more, dare I say, normal kind of period construction environment?
We really have not been able to look that far ahead because it's just a volatile time right now for projects going on the streets.
Right.
As we look at the projects, we got to make sure that these are significantly or the cost is significant for these projects. So we also have to take that in consideration. They were looking at a 60-day bid schedule, which is well beyond our typical 30-day. To allow contractors more time to sit down and really sharpen their pencils with these projects. So I don't know what the new normal is gonna be.
Right.
Stephen may have some insight on something he may have heard from his side.
The only thing we have seen is on the material side, some of that is going back to closer to normal,
Okay,
but some components, particularly on the electrical side, those still have some long lead times on things.
yeah, I understand. The lead time on a generator may be as long as like February,
18 months,
18 months on a generator.
which
Well-
used to be about 5 to 6 at the most.
And I guess why this matters for the county is, and we've talked about this internally and be happy to talk about it publicly now. We're kind of watching y'all to see when you bid your large project out to try to figure out where we can bid our smaller projects out to fit in a nice little window of opportunity. So we can get ours bid out and get a good response and hopefully get them constructed without interfering with the larger project. Knowing that there are only so many contractors go around. And if we bid ours competing with yours, the contractors that can bond for that high of work, they're going for y'all's. And then if they have any leftover resources, they may put in a response to ours. We don't want to be competing against our partner, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We're trying to find that good period where we can find the right time to bid our project. So we'll be in touch. Charlie and I'll be working with HRC very closely on that.
I'll just add that we have been as proactive as possible in terms of contractor outreach, letting them know this is coming, talking to the contractors we have seen bid on this type of project before and have this type of experience, trying to do everything we can to get competitive.
I have a quick question and I'll let Matt chime in as well as you guys. Is there any delay cost in any of the contracts that we have with you guys?
No, there's no delay cost. Are you for HRSD to delay the production of the?
Well, with you guys delaying it, because I assume we had some target dates of when all of that was going to occur. So my question is there any cost involved to the county, particularly for any delays that we had?
I'll chime in and say, for the vast majority of the sewer project, no. One benefit that we have is time. So if HRSD takes a little bit more time to deploy the interceptor force main, for instance, that doesn't hurt us. Other than maybe the interest rates are higher and that type of an effect. The one project that we have that's somewhat time critical, we can probably do, well, I won't say probably, I'm pretty sure we can do and have sit, and that is the Saluda sewer project, which we have the $800,000 grant for from DEQ. That has some time constraints on it, but that's pipe work with not any electrical. It's going to be feeding into a pump station that they're going to build. We can deploy those pipes and let them sit for
Okay.
a year or two and meet our deadlines and get everything connected. It will affect a little bit of our, well, the whole SLPP program's another story because there's just no way we can meet those time constraints. We're going to discuss that a little further next month. But that money, we hope to stay local and maybe fund Louis' septic tank repair program as opposed to ours. But the $800,000 grant for Saluda, we will need to get crack-a-lacking on and get that done by, I think, 2026, Charlie? Yeah. So that's the only one that I can think of. And that's a benefit because if interest rates come down, well, we benefit. And if the labor market loosens up a little bit, the contractors are more prevalent, we benefit from that as well. There'll be more competition. And not to take over your presentation, but I will steal some of Charlie's wind a little bit. One of the things we're hoping for is good bid windows. And if we bid a project out, and we don't feel like we've got a really good response, like they come in drastically over budget, we'll just wait for a better bidding environment. We've got that ability.
The county projects, just to reiterate, the county projects has no bearing on HRSD's project. HRSD is moving forward with these as planned currently. And if Middlesex deploys it 5 years after we've established our transmission force main, that's on Middlesex, but the plan is we're moving forward with the transmission force main to close down two treatment.
I have a question I'd like your perspective on. I'm gonna ask the same thing of Ken Turner. Last week, we had a flood tide that was 2.5 feet above normal high tide. Virtually all of Stingray Point was underwater. I'm interested in first, the impact of existing septic systems. When will they return to proper functionality, and the impact of discharge in Chesapeake Bay from your experience? I'm just interested in understanding the impact of flood tide.
I would say I do not have much experience with septic sewer. I'm typically confined with a force main gravity sewer system. Stephen, do you have any expertise on that?
Do not. Can't speak to the septic system.
I wish we could provide you more information, but that's not our expertise.
What was the second part of your question?
The impact on the Chesapeake Bay of the inundation of septic systems.
Oh, those would be nutrients as with any exposure of raw sewage to the bay. It's nutrients are always there.
Hey, nutrients, you got pathogens, chloroform, growth, all those things go into account for that, but without doing testing and looking into it, we couldn't tell you anything more definite than that. Thank you.
Other questions? Thanks.
Total project budget, it's actually $50 million. And these are HRSD's cost, and then the Saluda and Hartville pump station, they're not broken down here, and I apologize. But the Hartville pump station is 3% of the $7 million. And the Saluda is 49%, and that is the county's contribution to those two projects. The transmission force main is HRSD. And there's one project that was neglected on there, I apologize, which is the Deltaville force main, going from the transmission force main, or the Middlesex transmission force main going towards Deltaville. And has a total project cost of 2.8 million. And that's 100% HRSD. That portion. Going through the alignment one more time. I think everybody's kind of aware where this is going. It's going down Urbana Road, General Fuller, Sweet Fair. Any additional questions? And I have one more thing I wanted to bring up to the board that I didn't put in there. We are moving forward with a Middle Peninsula study. It's going to incorporate all of the small communities that we have that HRSD serves. And Middlesex is one of those communities. The study is going to be about a year long. We're looking to have that completed by middle of next year. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we are looking at all of our localities in this area, including Surrey and all the way over there. Eastern Shore is also being discussed. So,
Jeremiah, do you need any assistance from us on completion of that study? I know we've discussed it, I think, very briefly over at the PDC.
yeah, that's going to be the consultant is going to be reaching out to the various localities in late first quarter of next year.
Okay, I would recommend that maybe y'all and the consultant come to the county administrators meeting we have on the second Friday of every month at the PDC. It's a good time to reach all of us in one spot.
Yeah, I'll bring it up to them.
There you
They're nowhere close to being ready to talk to any stakeholders.
Right.
But it's going to be a few months out.
No worries. And my last question, Mr. Chairman, was what's the estimated completion deadline or completion time now? When we last spoke, it was December 2026, I believe, 2026.
25.
Okay,
It was 25. We're
the
gonna pay back.
interceptor force main,
And that pushes us back to April 26th, May 26th.
okay,
It's a few months pushed back, and I know we've been saying December of 25, and we were shooting for that date, and then when we got to the bid schedule, we just didn't feel it was the right time.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ken, good to see you back.
Mr. Kimbrough, before he gets started, I do know that we have John Kuntz is attempting to join. So I'm gonna see if Mr. Kuntz, are you available yet? I didn't want to interrupt while you were speaking, but he is attempting to join.
I am available.
Do you want approval to get him to participate? Is it, can we do that now? I don't know if that's legal.
So Supervisor Kuntz has informed the board that he would be unable to attend the meeting in person today and asked to be allowed to join the meeting electronically. Therefore, we must follow the Board of Supervisors policy and rules of procedure established for electronic participation in meetings due to a medical condition or disability. Supervisor Kuntz, why are you asking for approval to participate in this meeting electronically?
Because I had surgery and I'm in the recovery room and I'm ready to participate as a supervisor.
The board must have a majority vote to approve Supervisor Kuhn's participation in the meeting by electronic means. All those in favor of allowing Supervisor Kuntz to participate by electronic means, a roll call, please.
Sure. Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes. All right, Ken, welcome back. You're just for those attending to let you know where we are in the agenda. This is Timmons' update on the sewer project.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. I'm here to address the updates associated with the low pressure sewer system that's being deployed in various parts of the county. Next slide. We're currently working on the design for the topping wastewater collection system, phase one. Phase one.
We need to pause here.
Next slide. There it is. No, you're fine. That's perfectly understandable. The system is broken up into a short length of gravity sewer that extends from Grays Point Campground to the location of the Deltaville Pump Station, which will be designed and constructed.
Mind grabbing your hand, I'm gonna pull on you, just be resistant. Yeah. Like a lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will extend up to the location of the terminal pump station located on General Pillar Highway.
That's awesome.
Mr. Kuntz, I think your microphone might need to be muted.
I went ahead and muted that.
Thank you.
The green alignment is the section of the gravity sewer at the top right that extends down to the pump station that will be constructed in close proximity to the airport. From there, a force main will extend approximately 2 miles up to the shopping center for the county project, close to the restaurant, the Pig and Pie Restaurant. And from there, we will connect to the HRSD segment of the intercept force main, which Jeremiah just went over. Next slide. Some points to discuss with respect to phase one. We recently received a request from the county to extend the force main up to the shopping center where the Pig and Pie is. Originally, we were just going to stub out the force main directly adjacent to the pump station for the county portion of the force main. And originally, it was going to be the HRSD interceptor that ran all the way to General Fuller Highway. So once the work is completed, there will be two parallel force mains from the pump station site up to the shopping center. One will be owned, operated, and maintained by the county, and one will be owned, operated, and maintained by HRSD. In addition to that update, we're working to complete a radio path study for 3 of the pump station sites. There's the metering facility at the Grays Point Campground. There's the pump station that's going to have a communication component with HRSD's central radio system. And then the topping pump station will also have a radio telemetry system associated with that. So, and then we also, in the last meeting update, when we received a letter from DHR with respect to our ongoing efforts with the environmental assessment development for the topping force main. They requested that we do a phase 1 archaeological investigation. Originally, they wanted to do shovel tests every 50 feet, but we got some information from HRSD about the process that they followed. We're going to initiate a request to the Department of Historic Resources to only do phase 1 archaeological investigations around previously documented sites. So we'll be able to decrease the number of shovel tests that we have to do.
Hey, Ken, real quick on that, that could be a pretty substantial savings, that 31,000, correct?
That's correct.
Very good.
And there's also a risk there that if we do encounter any artifacts, that additional phase 2 and potentially phase 3 archaeological investigations would have to take place.
Yeah, that's understandable.
That's yet to be determined.
We, just a little bit of more depth for the board on that. We asked for that reconsideration because a lot of the areas where we would be doing those shovel tests are in VDOT right away on previously disturbed ground. So we'll basically be digging and fill and disturbed ground in any event. And based on some discussions, I think, Charlie, you had with HRSD, where HRSD was like, well, you know, DHR didn't make us do that because we were largely in VDOT right away. That's what gave us the idea to kind of embolden that request a little bit more, if that makes sense.
And when the road was built, the ditches were dug, the land was disturbed to construct the roadway, and then fiber optic lines, water lines, and other infrastructure had been constructed in the right of way, further disturbing that. And we got the approval from DHR that we didn't have to do extensive shovel testing in the previously disturbed right of way, which is a position that we've been able to obtain from DHR in the past. But this time they came across a little harder line, so we had to push back just a little bit. And we're in the midst of putting together some documentation to submit to them to facilitate this request. If any artifacts are recovered, they'll be clean, cataloged by the James Brewer Institute of Archaeology Laboratory in Williamsburg. They will remain the property of the landowner. Artifacts will be prepared in accordance with the Department of Historic Resources standards for permanent curation. And there will be a report that will be developed afterwards. If any artifacts are discovered, there will be a public comment period, and there will be a public presentation to share the results of the archaeological investigation with the interested public at the conclusion of the work. Next slide. So for updates for some of the specific areas where we're doing the sewer improvements in Deltaville, we've completed the field survey. We have phase 1 survey data that has been delivered to us to begin the design. The design of the sewer system for phase 1 is approximately 75% complete, and we're progressing with additional detailed design for phase 1. We had to revise the hydraulic model to include some increased growth numbers that have been requested by the county. And the PER updates have been completed, and we're going to submit those to the county this week. For Saluda, we got the go-ahead from the county in conjunction with the ARPA grant, so we're moving swiftly to complete that survey work, and we'll move swiftly into design. So we will be advertising Saluda as quickly as we can. And Hartfield, the PER has been completed and submitted to the county. We have not been authorized to proceed with design for that at this point. The next slide is the one you've seen repeatedly. It shows the total summary of the costs to date. And the overall project cost has been hovering around $41.5 million. That remains largely unchanged since I've started giving you reports on this and updates. And I wanted to address some of the things that were discussed earlier with respect to contractors and construction timing. We've been seeing increases in construction costs as well in a large number of projects. A couple of things that have impacted. I agree with Jeremiah. There's also a couple major projects down in Southeast Virginia. The Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel are ongoing. They're using up a lot of cranes and resources and concrete, so it's making materials and labor tougher to access for all the contractors across the area. So things are booming right now, and I think that's going to continue for some time. But we'll work with the county and determine when the best time to advertise these and construct them are, and with other our completion dates in with when HRC is planning to complete their work. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Everybody looks at me when they say any questions. Has the archaeological review started yet?
We've had preliminary meetings with the archaeologist. We have not been authorized to proceed with that yet. And we've just talked with them. We have been authorized to start on the environmental assessment. And we sent the letter to DHR, and we got the response back from DHR that they want us to complete this archaeological assessment. And we got the cost from James River Institute of Archaeology, and that's included in one of the slides. And that was one of the things I was going to request today, is get approval.
Right. And actually, the board did vote to authorize to move forward with it, but we're trying to get a better deal, is basically what we're doing.
We're always
Y'all
looking for a
voted on
better
it several
deal.
months ago to go ahead with archaeological, so, but we're trying to get the best deal we can. Of course, we want to be sensitive and make sure we do a good investigation, you know, but at the same point, we don't want to be made to do more than other people have done before us.
Right. Is there estimated time frame once that starts to when it could be completed? And I know, given the fact they may run into something or may not.
Yeah, it's about a 30-day time period for completion of the field work. And then depending on what they find, the curation and the cleaning and cataloging of the data that they find could take up to 90 days. And that includes report development and submission to the county. So overall, 100 to 120 day time frame from when we get authorization to proceed.
Does that change at all if we find nothing?
That would accelerate the time frame. If we find something significant, that would further delay the effort. So
Are
that's-
we aware of any endangered species that have come up on similar environmental assessments in the region in the last 3 years?
The long-eared bat is one animal of concern that we'll need to take into consideration. The Corps is also in the process of considering the tricolored bat threatened. And I don't believe that that species has habitat here, but the long-eared bat, there will be time of year restrictions when we can cut trees. So once we get to construction, we'll need to make sure that we coordinate with a contractor when we could do tree clearing.
Can we preemptively get a deeper understanding of that species? My history with Myotis sodalis, if that's the same one, is that they'll let you work, but they put a lot of restrictions. In my mind, the 120 days is a long time when we're already being delayed and subject to market conditions as we always are. But I think there's an opportunity to accelerate here if we go ahead and plan for some sort of disruption from the bat. I'm not saying spend a lot of time on it. I'm just saying the second we are told there's nothing, we should be moving forward. The second we're told it's that bat, we should already have a plan. And the second we're told something else, there's not much we can do. So my argument is we should be prepared for that bat, and it will mean schedule change primarily. I think you're already all over it, but this is where construction time is saved. When you throw out 90 to 120 days, my eyes roll because it means I have to come back and make sure you're on that. I just want to make sure that we have a contingency plan so that when we know one of these three results is going to come of these studies, we're prepared to move forward quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep our ear to the ground with respect to any changes in the regulations and make sure that we try and hit the construction timeframe so we don't further delay any construction or increase the project cost.
I got one more question. Maybe it'll be the last, maybe not. On your radio surveys that need to be done in Topping and Deltaville, and that was based on HRSD wanting it done at the beginning of the process.
That's correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
And typically that would be, the radio surveys would be under the bid package for contractors on what the total cost of what they're bidding on the project. Is that correct?
They have gone both ways in the past. I was originally under the impression that it was going to be done during construction, but we got a request from HRSD to do that now because there were some recent challenges with a couple other projects. When they got down to this point in the construction, they realized additional construction costs. So we want to make sure we get the radio pass studies out in front of the design, and we'll have a clear understanding of where we have to point the antenna and get the best signal intensity. And we'll have that study under our belt. So when it goes to construction, we'll already know how to set up the radio telemetry to best communicate with HRSD's radio tower at the York River Treatment Plant.
And other than Deltaville and Topping, is there any other part of this project that we would have to do any radio surveys?
I don't believe we're going to have to do one for Saluda because that's already going to the existing system. So we're just going to construct the collection system, and that will go to the pump station that's already going to be communicating with the central treatment plant. And
That's correct. And if I can chime in, the reason we won't have to do that is because Jeremiah and HRSD are building those pump stations, and that's part of their overall thing they do. These are the only two pump stations that we're building to turn over to them, other than Cook's Point, of course, which is already at work.
But Topping, we're going to have a radio telemetry set up at the metering facility, and then we're going to have one at the pump station as well. So we can, and that is to monitor any infiltration and inflow. So if there's a problem at the campground, we'll know that it's a problem at the campground and not in the county collection system. So that's being done to benefit the county.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Any other questions? Thanks.
And I would like to get your expert opinion on the question that I asked previously with respect to unusually high tides that we're experiencing more and more often. 2.5 foot tide above normal high tide inundated Stingray Point and a number of other low-lying areas, submerging septic systems. And I'm curious for what is the duration of the impact on those septic systems until they return to proper functioning, and also your perspective on the impact on Chesapeake Bay.
Well, as you've watched the weather and we have these nor'easters, you notice the tide cycle gets high and then it goes back to normal. It's a sinusoidal frequency where the tides get high, and then after 3 to 5 days, they get back to normal. During those periods of high tides, if the septic tanks are inundated, they don't have the flow going through the septic tank and into the drain field and percolate into the soil. So in those instances, you'll have discharges of raw sewage coming out of the ground or out of a clean out. A lot of times when that occurs in people's houses, if they have a slab on grade, sometimes they'll just disconnect the clean out or something and just let it flow out on the ground. So there would be periods where you would have some discharge of untreated sewage for short periods of time until the tide cycle subsides, in my opinion.
It's in my perspective, it's a compelling reason that we need to continue on a path to implement the sewer system. And it's one that's not often addressed. It's the impact of our increasingly high tide cycles on functionality of septic systems as well as on the pollution in Chesapeake Bay.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, the tide was up in my backyard and I've got a septic tank and drain field down at another house in Carolina, so I've dealt with those before. No. No, we don't.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kim.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on to Charlie and the sheriff's office, I did have a couple of points that I talked to Anne Marie about yesterday. With the completion of the Cook's Corner sewer system nearing, we're going to be working with HRSD to use some of our capacity that we have in that system to connect some of the county facilities that may need to connect to sewer at Cook's Corner. Yeah, the board may recall when we started the Cook's Corner sewer collection system, that effluent is being pumped up here to the Saluda treatment plant and treated until HRSD converts that treatment plant into a pump station and pumps it via its interceptor main to Yorktown. We have some septic issues that we're dealing with that it may be advantageous for us to connect some of the county facilities and use some of that capacity at this treatment plant in waiting for the interceptor main to come online and then ultimately everything be shipped out from Saluda. So I just want, there'll be more that we report on that probably next month. But we're going to start and engage HRSD on some of those discussions, and Charlie will be a part of that along with Anne Marie and myself, because you know we've got one facility in particular that we're having some issues with the drain field on, that we can either repair the drain field or potentially connect it to sewer and be better off in the long run. So we're going to weigh those options and have a recommendation for y'all next month. I just wanted to give you a heads up. It's coming. So, thank you.
Charlie, good
Chairman.
to see you.
Good to be seen. Thank you, members of the board. In that same vein, the state has promulgated law that if you have a failing septic system and or drain field, then you have a certain amount of time to replace or repair it. The other option is to tie into a city or county provided system. So this goes back to your question with regards to high tide and so on. You may see a lot of that go away, provided the property owner makes that decision to tie in, or the state may not give them a choice. Is that? So that's something that that property owners need to understand, and maybe something that we need to get out there to them, so if they know what their options are. Just like
The
the
state's
promulgating laws right now, just like with the water system. If your well has become contaminated, then you have a certain amount of time to either drill a new well or tie into an existing county or city provided water system. Remember that conversation? So a lot of these people that have wells, if they're contaminated, it's going to be the lesser of two evils. Do I spend X number of dollars to drill a new well, or do I spend money to tie into the county provided water system? So it's going to come down probably in the next 3 to 5 years. People are going to have a decision. The problem is, of course, we haven't had the conversations that we should. But the water authority in the county, especially sewer, we're looking at standing up utilities group, and who is going to manage that group, and how can we, through synergies and efficiencies, run the two together? Because right now sewer is based on water use. So if you don't have a water meter, you can't tie into sewer because they have no way to meet it. So you may see a boom
water tie-ins and of course, we're hoping for the same with the sewer, but given that the state is going to promulgate these laws, we need to get that information out to the public. But that's not why I'm here. Here to talk about Humboldt Field. Number one, we had a very successful Wings, Wheels and Keels this past weekend. We did, and I think the weather played a part in participation, but we still had a good turnout. In your packet, you've got a breakdown of the ALP that we received from Parrish and Company. There's actually two options that are being considered. Develop the east, continue to develop the east side, or is it, no, it's the west side, I'm sorry, where the existing facilities are. The second option is to build out the west side, I'm sorry, the east side of the airport with all new facilities. So we're still struggling with that from, for lack of a better term. I've asked Parrish and partners to put together a scope of work and a cost to assist the county in evaluating both options and what would be the best use of the existing property. It would be in the best interest of the county, if you will. And of course, you may or may not know that Mr. Barber has acquired the Lawson Trust property, which is adjacent to our hangars. He's going to be developing that property, building hangars of his own. And I don't know if he's going to sell them like he did with the first set of hangars that he built. My guess is he will. So we're still evaluating the unsolicited proposal. I'm working with Mark Flynn, our legal counsel for the airport, and project manager to determine what the county can live with and what we can compromise on, which right now is not too much. But we're fast approaching a point where we're going to make a decision, yes or no, and bring it to the board. And also, I received notice from the state with regard to our capital improvement plan for the airport. It's going to be for the next 5 years. We have to submit it by April of next year. And this is for funding for any projects at the airport. Now, I have to share with you, we've talked with the state, John Hart, John Smiley. They're very supportive of the project for airport expansion here at Humboldt Field. They are anticipating our drawings, which is going to show what we're actually going to build and how it's going to be phased. It's going to be a phased approach. We're in the process of determining the priorities, what we should build first. And if it's not shown on the LP, then 5 years from now, we can't say, oh, by the way, we want to add hangars here. So Parrish and Partners is going to develop that whole plan, the best utilization of airport property. That's going to be submitted to the state along with the different phases and the costs associated with that. So I wanted to share that with you. Next item is I'm sorry, is there any questions about the airport?
Are we still on a 80-20 split on what's coming from the state and what the county's
Yes, sir.
liable to? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. With regards to the existing fuel facility, I'm looking at refurbishing that facility, and that would fall under maintenance, which would be a 95-5 split.
I like that
95 state,
better.
5 county.
Definitely
Yeah.
like that.
And that's what I'm leaning towards. I'm waiting for the state to get back to me if we can classify it as maintenance, since we're going to refurbish it. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to add new pumps, filters, and so on. So they would consider that new construction. So I'm waiting for the ruling on that. If not, we'll do what we can to keep it a viable system until such time as we can do it. And I think that would be the first phase, the first priority. And I think John Hart agreed with me saying, yeah, we got to have a reliable source of fuel at the start. So that's where we're leaning. But yes, it's all going to be 80-20. Right? And that's going to be on a year to year as well. We can apply for this phase 1 in 2024, phase 2 in 25, phase 3 in 26, and so on. So, and the state's prepared for that. We've already set the stage and they're waiting for our drawings. All right, the next item is the Puller Building. As you know, we conducted a 75% design review, provided comments to Bay Design. They've taken those comments, they've incorporated them into the drawings. And we now have a meeting scheduled for Thursday, correct me, somewhere? Thursday for the 90% design package. Myself and Dave Bushy who is the point of contact for the project, received the drawings. I have since printed them and provided copies to other people so that they won't go into it blind. Dave Lehman, so on. So we'll have that meeting on Thursday, and that's leading up to finalizing the drawings and 100% issue construction. Right now, we're anticipating bidding that project first quarter of next year. The last item I have is the county landfill closure. I'm working.
No, wait a minute,
Oh,
wait a
I'm
minute.
sorry. Any questions?
Don't be jumping around too quick. Where are we with the cost of the renovation?
Cost hasn't changed.
Okay, everything's still remaining viable. Has there been any other changes to the original discussions that we had about the design, et cetera, parking, whatever?
No, sir. In fact, we took Sheriff Bush's comments and incorporated and improved on them. He now has 17 parking positions, not 3. The only item I can think of that may impact the cost marginally would be, we're going to tie Fuller Building into the pump station at Cook Spring. And that'll consist of running, and it'll be a gravity feed system from the Fuller Building to the first manhole there at Cook Spring, right behind that school.
I don't think that had changed though from what we had originally talked about, correct?
It had not. We were looking at 2 options. One was low pressure,
Right?
and the other was gravity feed to that manhole. So yes, that was in the original presentation. Last item on my list is the county landfill. I am working with a gentleman by the name of Bob Hunley. They're now with Arm Resource, which is formerly Resource International. They were purchased by another company. And we've developed a closure plan and a timeline for getting final closure from DEQ for that system. It goes basically going to go from monthly testing to quarterly testing to yearly testing. And that's going to, time duration is about 2 to 3 years, unfortunately. I'm also coordinating, working with him on their costs. They're sending stuff off to the lab, and I'm looking at, I've asked them to look at providing that as a pass-through cost to the county rather than charging us for it, because they mark everything up. So we're negotiating their hourly costs and rates right now, and I hope to resolve that soon. So that's the last item I have on my list.
What's the time frame between monthly testing to quarterly testing? You said 3 years for the whole process.
Well, it could be less. Right now, we're doing monthly testing going to quarterly testing. So
Okay.
I imagine starting next year, we'll test 4 times a year instead of 12 times a year. So, and it may, well, no, we've already started the 4th quarter, so, yeah, so it'll probably start next year, quarterly testing. And then we'll have to do an annual test to verify that we've covered all the bases and satisfied DEQ's requirements.
And is that a 2-year period between, is that right?
Yes, sir. Now, it could go to the 3rd year if that annual test
I
doesn't
get it.
meet the criteria. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like we're making some sort of progress, right? Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, yes, sir.
And that's very important because our testing costs have went up dramatically
Oh,
over the last couple of years. That's
Hence-
something we're going to be addressing in our budget talks coming up. And I'll have more to report on that next month as well, but the costs going up the way they are, it's in our interest to test as least frequently as we can, I guess is the best way to say it.
yes, sir. That's why we're starting quarterly next year. I pushed that because they wanted to go another year of monthly testing. I said, no, if we're to the point where we can go quarterly, that's what we want to do.
Well, and we have a substantial amount of data that is representative of good tests
Yes, sir.
that we've had. I know we had that little fiasco about who was supposed to submit a report and didn't. That's been taken care
It's
of.
been resolved.
But we do have a background of positive testing.
We do. We have a substantial amount of data. Unfortunately, DEQ is requiring more. Hence the quarterly testing than annual. And if it continues, we continue to collect good data that meets their requirements and satisfies their needs, then yeah, then we can close it.
Great. Thank you, John.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Real quick, Charlie, before you leave, does Ken need approval on the radio survey?
He does. And like I said, I've got a couple of documents for you to sign. We can take care of that tomorrow. Goes to the JIA. There you go. We got to get that signed, but we've already submitted the package for review, correct? And the signature pages can follow.
Does the board need to authorize that?
No.
Okay.
That's all part of the process.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, going back to that, Charlie, the change order is to archaeology. Can you, I mean, I don't understand, the board approved that scope of work, but we're trying to change that, so are you asking for authorization? What's the deal?
No, it's been authorized by the board. What we're trying to do is minimize how much we're gonna have to spend now. The board has authorized the amount and what's gonna happen, then correct me if I'm wrong. We're gonna do it on a time and material basis. So if we are successful with the state of getting them to reduce their requirements.
I mean, and how much longer are we gonna wait on that? I understand you said that, I had a question for that, but we got skipped. So Ken, you said you were gonna be pushing back to the state. Is something being submitted on that? So we'll have an answer.
Yes, we just got information from HRSD last week as to the process that they went through, and our environmental folks reviewed that on Friday. We're putting the package together to submit to DHR within the next week or two, and it's a 30-day review process. But we plan on moving forward with the reduced scope that we are going to do the work on a time and material basis. So 1,671 is the total not to exceed, and we'll do it on time and material.
So it's a time and materials, but it's gonna be a not to exceed the original amount. That's
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. A lot of different words are being used there, but they weren't aligning with what we had already. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. So does the board understand? I want to make sure we're clear on the archaeological. They're going to be changing that, which we've already approved it, but it won't exceed the voting line.
Well, and while we've got it, on page 72, 73, and 74 of your packet does have the additional changes to the scope of work for copying and I guess Delta L2 with radio services. I'd ask the board to go ahead and either by consensus or vote authorize me to sign those
By vote.
if you're comfortable. Well, okay, I think the attorney would like it by vote, and that's fine too. These are additional services that we've already discussed, and if you have any questions to them, we've got the guys here to ask.
So your first one is your scope and fee schedule for the radio survey. This is for a lump sum amount of $4,400.
Per site.
Per site.
Okay, so.
There's one at Deltaville and there's two at Topping. We want to do all three radio path studies at the same time.
I'll make the motion. So moved on scope and fee schedule.
Yeah, no.
Is that right? Is that what we're doing? No?
Sorry, just 1 second. Well, make sure the issue is about 3 weeks from now, there's always questions coming up. We have a little, I want to just make sure we're very clear for the minutes on what we're approving and what we're not, so that when these questions arise, staff is very clear, so we didn't have to amount. What is the amount you're asking the board to approve the radio survey?
And Heather, can you move your mic just a little bit closer?
Yeah, so
Sorry, yes.
so the amounts on page 74 is $26,300 for task 1, which is the additional design for low pressure sewer extensions. And then
Yeah,
task 2 is $8,800 for both the radio surveys for a total of $35,100. $35,100.
Thank you. So that's what we need in the motion, so that there's an abundance of clarity for us, accounting and administration, so we all know what we're talking about.
And for the public.
As your person here in accounting, I'm confused then. So what about the Deltaville? The Deltaville service areas for everything. That's on page 72.
2016 includes.
I don't understand your question.
Well, there's one for 7,200, or excuse me, on page 72 for 4,400.
There are two of those that add up to the 8,800 It's on page 730.
That's correct. This about page 72.
So page 74 is a culmination.
Correct. That is
So we
correct.
really don't need page 72 at all.
Okay,
That's correct.
that is
okay.
what I needed. Thank you.
So it's
All right, okay, then I'll make that motion if I make it right. It's task 1 and task 2 of the total lump sum of $3,500. I mean, 135,100 for the fees to let the county administrator sign off. Is that right? Does that work?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Jesse. Second by Mr. Harris. Any further discussion? Thanks. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coons,
And you would start with me. Aye.
yes, Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Heather, for bringing that up. Matt, you're reading the new. Thank you.
Right, Anne Marie.
Let's see, the citizens appointments is report only. The second item, the budget supplement request 2024-14 is to formalize action that the board took at the last board meeting related to appropriating $75,000 for the replacement of field lighting at the sports complex. The board approved it at the last committee meeting, at the last board meeting. And we needed to put this formally as you requested.
This is appropriating what the project that we approved last year.
Correct. I'll make the motion to approve FY 2024-14.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Jesse. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Coons,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be working with Tammy Putney and the committee on incorporating some of those lighting needs in the future into the capital improvements plan with Dave Kratz.
That was a question. This is the first. Yeah. That we will have it. Okay. Okay, good.
Agenda item C is related to the Middlesex Broadband Authority. And if Kevin is on, Kevin, did you want to address this letter of intent? Or do you want me to?
I can, yeah, this, what you have in front of you is, or if it's up there, it's just a letter of intent to say that we plan to pursue grant funding to get service to the remaining broadband deserts in Middlesex County. We have to get that in by October 19th. It's just, it doesn't obligate us to do anything. It's just that we are in the process of identifying those locations and plan to pursue funding later in the year.
And at this time, we just need a consensus of the board to submit this.
Do we need a vote or can we?
A consensus is
we just
fine
name our-
if everyone's kind of says yes, yeah.
Jesse support. Mr. Harris, I support it. John, Reggie,
Yes, I support it.
I'm going to abstain because of loud beeping.
okay,
Okay,
thank you. That the minutes show that the board supports this.
I was going to mention that John is the chairman of that committee of the Broadband Authority, so he probably does know it pretty well. The final thing that I have right now is it's simply a request for approval of a purchase by the Economic Development Authority. Back in March 2023, the board approved the acceptance of an ARPA tourism grant and how it was to be spent. The part of it included the trip planning program. The the EDA has gone through, reviewed and compared 3 different trip planning applications, and they're making a recommendation for this. And if Trent is here, I'll let him go further.
I appreciate it. And thank you, members of the board. No. Well, even though I've been here a little bit over a year, sometimes the different processes, how we do things. No, that's fine. No, it's basically summed it up. We're asking for permission to spend money that we've already been awarded. It's already in the county's bank account. And at a cost not to exceed $13,000. And it's the Visit Widget app. We actually looked at a fourth one. We budgeted 30, but a lot of these, they're high setup costs and high annual fees. And we just didn't feel like they were justified for the fee ongoing. And we think that this was going to accomplish what we need to. And it's also has the most flexibility in terms of cooperating, playing well with others. If we want to use different data sources. The board might recall, we were interested in using Waterway Guide, but it just didn't seem it was as dysfunctional. But we can still use their data. They're trying to start their own kind of independent. And it's very marina waterway, centric, which is good, but not for us trying to do a comprehensive trip planning app to start out with. But we think we're still going to continue to work with them on advertising as well as the other great things that they did. I don't know if y'all have any questions. This is just one piece of the puzzle, and we've got a lot to do over the next couple of months to spend this money down.
This was part of the EDA tourist initiative that received a special grant funding.
Right, it's all ARPA, but it's ARPA sewer, ARPA tourism, ARPA. So this one's administered by the Virginia Tourism Corporation. Yes, sir. And because of the purchasing policy, y'all need to, because the money's going through y'all and because of the amount. It's over $10,000. That's the only reason we're asking permission.
But we've already approved this, correct?
You've already approved it in concept, but the
Okay.
individual purchasing decisions in accordance with the purchasing regulations, we have to ask your permission.
Okay, do we need a motion on that?
Yes,
So the motion is to approve, or not to exceed 13,000. On the EDA, what?
The ARPA, Virginia Tourism ARPA grant, but specifically to procure Visit Widget as the chosen application.
So moved.
Second it.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Jesse. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Coons, Mr. Coons, Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Right, Mr. County Administrator.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, first thing we had, you got a copy of my report in your packet. We had a resolution for ratification of emergency services declaration that I believe Dave Lehman and Wayne worked together on for Tropical Storm Ophelia. It was ramped up pretty quickly, but then kind of dissolved just as quickly. So luckily, we did not have a terrible amount of damage in the county, and it was largely one high tide event in the morning and one we were dreading in the afternoon that never really arose. So I would ask the board for ratification of that emergency services declaration today.
I don't see that in my packet. I see some mention of it in the engineer's report, but it's
Page 99.
page 99. Okay, we're just a little bit out of order, I guess. Well, maybe I'm out. Okay, I got you. I'll make the motion for to move forward with resolution R 2023-10.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Jesse. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Coons, Mr. Coons, Mr. Harris,
Aye.
there he is. Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries.
Next item I had, Mr. Chairman, in the past, we voted for the board member that would be the voting delegate at the Virginia Association of Counties Annual Conference. We have submitted Wayne Jesse. He's our legislative liaison and has done that for a number of years in the past. But we would need the board to vote on this. to ratify that.
The motion, to ratify that.
Yeah, so moved on the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Coons,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else, Matt?
Couple of informational items, Mr. Chairman. We did receive a request, and I think Trent's already left. We received some correspondence from the Economic Development Authority on a review that they conducted of county properties. Nothing outright requesting any particular property to be conveyed to them, but just an overall review of what they would perceive good uses for those properties would be. Make mention of it today because this will probably be on our agenda at our next liaison meeting between the board and the EDA for discussion to see if any of these county properties may be conveyed to the EDA for economic development purposes. And probably something we'd want to discuss at the board retreat in November as well. Next, I attended a regional reassessment meeting at the PDC, and I don't want to steal Wayne's thunder because he was at the same meeting physically present. I was joined by Zoom. It does not appear Gloucester will be working with the counties in a regional capacity on reassessment. I think their idea would be they would be on standby to help set up regional reassessment offices if other, say, two counties wanted to partner together to go in on the potential of setting up their own in-house reassessment offices with the software and other things that Gloucester uses. I did not get the feelings that they wanted to be part of a regional reassessment, but they would probably help out and facilitate as an aside or as kind of on the side. One strong recommendation from the Gloucester tax assessor was that when we do go out for bid and that we do go out to bid one more time for a contractor to come in and do a reassessment, that we consider hiring a consultant to help oversee the work being done, a qualified consultant that's certified in the type of work that can recognize trends and catch things that maybe the commissioner or the board or staff who are not trained in conducting massive appraisal type reassessments would be trained to catch and oversee. I thought that was a very sound recommendation. It was a surprise to me that Matthews had implemented that, I guess in some fashion with a consultant, but that's something we're going to look into. I've had some preliminary conversations with May, our Commissioner of Revenue. We feel like I feel like I won't speak for her, that it's time that we brush the dust off of our reassessment RFP and get it on the street. Due to what I reported very briefly yet last month, due to time constraints, in that our reassessment or our assessment ratio as quantified by the state tax office has now slipped to 77.8%. Other counties around us, Essex has slipped to 72%, and King and Queen is hovering right under 90% at 88.5%. So we probably have a couple of counties that would want to do a reassessment like we have in the past, collectively as opposed to individually. I want to reach out to the county administrators, perhaps at the next county administrator meeting, to see if they wish to participate. And I'll have an RFP ready to go, hopefully in November. And of course, the board will get a chance to look at that before I put it on the street. In the last 3 reassessments, I believe, we've done in partnership with other counties around to contract out for. The other strong recommendation that I walked away from that meeting this past Wednesday at the PDC was, when you do go out to bid it in such a way that you can help stand up an in-house assessor's office if that's what the board would choose to do. Have the data developed, have the software used, and help train the staff in the reassessment process as part of the overall bid, if you will, the overall reassessment. So we'd hire a contractor one more time, And they'd help train the staff that we would employ in-house, either in partnership with another county or potentially by ourselves. Now, realizing we're not going to make that decision here tonight, that's something that we can discuss over the next 2 to 3 months to see if we want to incorporate that into the process. But I would recommend we get a reassessment RFP on the street by the end of the year, so we can get somebody on board and have that work started in the spring. I don't think market conditions are going to fluctuate to the extent where our 77 is going to magically go back up to 90%. I think it will probably be low 70s next time. So keeping that assessment ratio is very important for us, making sure that the public service corporations are paying their share of the taxes into the county. And that's why we always want to be above 90 with our assessment ratio. That's more for informational purpose, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, just briefly, how many counties have said they'd be interested in a regional program? And that would necessitate coordinating their timeframe reassessment, everybody that's part of that group. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'll answer it this way. All of us have said we were interested in pursuing it potentially. The logistics of trying to do 5 counties may be one of the reasons, right? Gloucester was like, yeah, we don't want to try to do it with 5 counties. There has been multiple attempts over 30 years that really started with Gloucester and their Commonwealth's attorney, if my memory serves, 30 years ago, having some issues with the reassessment. To try to do a regional reassessment in some fashion. Now, what has happened is Gloucester has formed their own, they've done their own in-house assessor's office. And the rest of us have kind of glommed on together and put out an RFP where we have a consultant come in and do our reassessment. And to specifically answer your question, when we've done that, like King and Queen and Middlesex would have their reassessments done largely the same time. And then Matthews and Essex, for instance, would have theirs done. And it would be a staggered type of thing where we all enter into a contract with the same provider. And they start with Middlesex and King and Queen, and then they move into Matthews or Essex. And you fill in blank whichever county best fit. We have more parcels. I think we have the second most parcels in the Middle Peninsula. Right there close with well, no, we're third, I guess, because King William would have slightly more than us. In any event, the 4 counties that have partnered on the reassessment in the past have been Essex, King and Queen, Matthews, and Middlesex. And the way the contractor has broken up the work is how best to fit each county in due to size and level of workload to try to get them all done within 2 years, 2 to 3 years. This time, if I was a betting man, I would bet we'd have 1 county, maybe 2 go in on that regional type of contract again. And yet to be determined who would want to pull the trigger and actually go in on it with us. But I would think it would be Essex and Middlesex wanting to get their work done first, given our ratios. Essex ratio being 72 and our ratio being 77. I don't know, did that answer your question?
Sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of.
Thank you. So but we haven't assessed here as a time frame yet, and I know you're preliminarily on what we're talking about, on whether we would move from a 5-year reassessment to something other than that. Correct?
That's correct. And what I would say is a 5-year, 6-year, 4 years, really a guide. I don't think you should keep it as a hard and fast rule. I think a better rule of thumb would be when your reassessment, or excuse me, when your assessment ratio slips below 90%, you get a reassessment, whether it's in-house or contract out. Because once you start getting down into the 70s, you're leaving a lot of revenue on the table from public service corporations who pay their taxes based on that assessment ratio.
Never mind.
Okay, well, there'll be more to discuss during the budget process, but I guess I'll sum up by saying, want to get the RFP on the street as soon as possible and get our next reassessment going as soon as possible. And I'll be working with May to do that. And we'll reach out to the other counties around us to see if they want to participate in that RFP. We've kind of led that process in the past, so it's nothing new for us. And we generally get a better deal when we put it out to bid as a region.
Yeah, and also at the meeting, they were saying, that the consultant is more like, overseeing. It's good to have a regional consultant. And then he can move around, but that way you get better quality oversight of the property. But overall, they were saying at the PDC that, if you win a regional reassessment, that don't mean, that the price gonna be cheaper. It may be more because one side don't fit all. And that's what I came out of that meeting.
That's a very good point, Wayne. And just like Wayne said, if the region, say we had Essex, King and Queen, Matthews and Middlesex, like last time, come in and decide to go out for bid together on an RFP, then we could share the cost of a consultant and let that consultant oversee the operations total across the whole region. But yeah, it's not a one size fits all type of approach. And so more on that later, I guess, but we're going to try to get that RFP cleaned up and get the coalition of willing rounded up again to see what we can start that process. Update, we have a meeting tomorrow, October 4th with the school county budget and finance committee to discuss the recent budget amendments that were made at the state level and how that's affecting the schools and how that's affecting the county. I'll give you a little teaser. We're very delighted to hear that the state is going to fund or I don't want to say refund. They're going to fund again some of the positions in the commissioners and the treasurer's office that they cut back in 2008. Since then, we've been funding those with county funds. Before that big budget debacle at the state and the budget downturn, they had been funding, the Commonwealth of Virginia had funded many positions through the comp board. So we expect to see some additional revenues because the state has decided it's time for them to now fund those positions in the treasurer's and in the commissioner's office that they had cut funding for way back then. So it was really funny. Many of you may remember what Jack Miller used to call it. It was aid to the Commonwealth, us having to pick up the funding that they could not afford to do anymore. I guess they finally realized they've learned so many years of surpluses, it's hard to defend not funding their responsible the positions they're responsible for funding. So we got that. That's going to be a number that we'll hopefully have for the November meeting. The comp board's got to put in the figures to see how much money each locality is going to get in that respect. I have both Tracy, May, and I looking out for the comp board to have those figures for us by the next meeting. Also, along that note, it's my understanding too, this budget amendment session, if you will, the amended budget fixed some compression issues with county deputies and salaries at the sheriff's department. So the sheriff's department may be getting some additional revenue too to fix some of the compression issues. Again, when comp board has their numbers, we'll get them to you. And then the last thing I had, can wait. How's that, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Very good. County Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just have a brief matter. Staff has made me, well, and working with staff, we are asking the permission of the board. We need to update the your wetlands ordinance and your coastal sand dune ordinance. Legislation went into effect that says that we have to update these two ordinances effective January of 2024. And essentially the updates are very minor. Most of it is making sure the state's agency names changed. So they want those corrected, some grammatical things. And then the other thing is there's been an overhaul of the notice language in a lot of the code. And this aligns that. It's a 14-day notice. We have to notify certain state agencies, posted on the website. The real change there is the number of days. It's just trying to make consistent with numerous other code sections. So with that, we are asking your permission to send that to public hearing for November so that we can be in compliance with the January effective date. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about that. A consensus is fine. I just didn't want you to be surprised that you were going to have some ordinance amendments. I know grammar updates are riveting, so I know you're anxiously awaiting them.
I'm good with it. Okay.
I'm good with it. John, Reggie?
I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
Thank you, gentlemen. That'll be on the November agenda then for a public hearing.
Very good. Unfinished and new business and unfinished business. We have the matter of the Healy's Mill Homeowners Association update. We have Lee's name on the agenda, but I don't see Lee.
He may have had to attend the Gloucester meeting.
Okay. So at our last meeting, we had a report from Lee and we had some public comment from members of the homeowners association. There were some nuances to understand between the different, of course, one option would be to table this. But there were two options that were explained by Lee, and please correct me if I get this wrong, but one of the options was that the board could choose to abandon the road, or it could discontinue use of the road. And those options have different implications as far as the lingering responsibility and liability of the county. That is, this is my understanding, abandonment relieves the county of any ongoing liability or responsibility. Discontinuance would leave the county as sort of the default responsible party in the event of say a liability matter. And so because we didn't really understand all those nuances at our meeting last month, we had a town hall meeting that was very well attended by the members of the homeowners association and residents, as well as those outside of the Healy's Mill Homeowners Association who spoke both for and against this matter. So I think the matter before us is whether we choose to select one of those two options or continue to table this matter that has been going on for 18 years. So I asked the board at this juncture to please comment. Let us have your perspective on what you would like to do here, and let's get this matter before us.
I will start it off. Like I said, the town hall meeting, the homeowners association clearly said they wanted to abandon it. So I think after we talk about this, I would like for us to have a public hearing on it and get this through quickly, because time is of the essence. We have storms and everything going on. So if we can meet all the deadlines and do what we need to do to abandon it, I would like for us to do that.
Don, you have comments?
Well, I'll say first for the people that are here, thank you for coming and voicing what you are willing to do for the dam project. I'm not opposed to what you asked for the other night. However, I do have a little bit of heartburn with the abandonment issue of if we go that route, and for some reason something changes, whether it's development, what have you, you're gonna be hard pressed to be able to go back to open that road at some later date. That being said, I also have a concern that if, and I'm sure it's a pretty big if, I've talked to Wayne a little bit and he seems to think it's a pretty big if. There has been some discussion that the transportation department would be willing to look at the project. And I know they've looked at it, and they, VDOT says, well, we're pretty set on what we're going to do or not do. But there has been some communication that at least the secretary of the transportation would be willing to look at that. I understand the concerns that the HOA has on time frame, and I think that is legitimate. But I would like to hear, and Mr. McKnight, I've talked to him, and he said, yes, he was requested some information about a month ago, but he hasn't heard anything back. So my contention is I'd like to hear back from the state. Are they willing to do anything? Are they willing to consider bringing the dam and the road back up to speed? I know there's two issues there. What needs to take place for the homeowners as far as the bridge repair? And secondly, a second issue is it appears that they don't want to see the road reopened. I don't have an opinion one way or the other than I'm the type of guy that wants to know everything that I need to know before I make a decision, and particular decision that may be long-term, good or bad for the county on closing that road. It's closed now, but is there anything that can be done? So my opinion is that the county sends a letter to the state saying, because it appears that they want to hear something from us. My opinion would be that we send something and ask them for, and we're on a time frame. You could put a time frame on that, but at least hear what they have to say regarding, are they still of the opinion that they're not going to do anything on the dam until it's repaired, or will they take on some of that responsibility to do that? And that's kind of where I stand on that.
Reggie, do you have comments?
Yeah, I got a few things to say. I'm a representative from that area. I live in that area all my life. I know about the bridge, the dam, the pond. I even know how the houses went up on the other side. So I know the whole story. But at the end of the day, it's like this. It's been 18 years. 18 years is a long time for everybody now that can come around and want to say nothing that did nothing. Even if you take care of the comments of the individuals that lived in the county. It's been 18 years. Then all of a sudden, after 18 years, you're going to come around and going to say, we can do this, we can do that. Maybe you can. Maybe this guy that we elected somewhere, maybe he can, but he didn't. Now, all of a sudden, we happen to have somebody in the area. I don't know him. It didn't make itself presentable. He didn't come about it. They had a town hall meeting one time before, and nobody did anything. Now, I look at it like this. The gentleman that spoke last, he said he bought a place from, he was in New York, I think. I had met him. I'm gonna make sure I meet this guy because I think he understands the whole picture. Now, all the ones who set back, and to me, it's a shame. You set back in this county and watch a development to develop, and you cause a problem because you sat around and didn't say anything and didn't do nothing until it crossed your road. And some of them last night, they said it right, they'll turn into a drag strip down there. They show law is right because people show law that ran up in the woods and everything else. So the little section of the highway going west, they're saying, hey, I love it like the way it is. Now you say the ones going east say, well, I want to open it back up. So you got a pool there. The closing of that road might be the best thing they've done to 619. And even of the ones that commented, they haven't been on it no longer than I have. And I see things happening. Okay, what they should be thinking about, the ones in the county, might be on the board of supervisors, just say, how can we expand the road to shoot it through 619 so we can make that road a better road? Because down there, it looks nice. It's a nice place. I remember almost when the first house was built down on the other side of the water, we talking about it may be 3-4 foot of water, enough to put a little skiff boat out in. Now we have sold people to come to this area They came here because of us, and some of us didn't deal a fair debt. Now they want to fix a problem that we created, not so much as a county. When I say we, I don't mean me and I don't mean some of the rest of y'all, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. They said, well, we're going to fix the problem. We don't want it to be a burden to the taxpayers of Middlesex County. We have a time frame because we got to put into grants. And we got to put in for our grants so we can get the money. Even the landowner said, look, I'm willing to help out. Well, maybe he caught a deck too with all zeros in it. I don't know. But the idea of it, he's saying he's willing to help. Now we are so good. We are so smart. We are so thorough that we can say, you know, maybe we can wait another 5 or 10 years, get a big hurricane and water and wash all of it out. Then we won't have anything. Then we say we made a mistake. I'm for abandonment. That's what they said they wanted. And after it's all said and done, I still like to talk to the gentleman that was from New York, because I want to pick his brain a little bit. Because I see how things happening. And it's nobody more thorough than the reasoning behind the way we do things than me. And as you know, I think about the seniors and I think about the taxpayers. And I think about Middlesex County. I don't go right and I don't go left. I'm not influenced by nobody except the elderly, the youth, which means the school system, and I'm a straight shooter. And I see this thing, and I saw it for years, and I'll say, you know, the homeowners association, hey, I'm for y'all doing what y'all want to do. This is what y'all want to do. And some of y'all know exactly why you're doing it. So I'm gonna just leave that like it is. I just gonna make sure I text basically to talk to the guy from New York that had his retirement and brought a place in a place that really nobody wanted. You know, it's a lot around here. It's a lot. It's a beautiful county. We got places around here, anybody would love to come. And closing that road probably was the best idea they had, because it just was a little pond, you remember? Y'all been in the county? It just was a little pond, maybe 3-4 foot of water in it, but I'll leave that alone. So I just let you know I'm for abandonment. That's what they want. And like you say, they are in my district, you know, so you should get a little respect, because I could take you some deep details and tell you why you will come out. We should say abandonment, hands down. And I thought it was going to happen at the other meeting. For some reason or another, it didn't. Now we done held up a whole 6 or 7 weeks or more in case something happened in that down frame that we just plain footsteps with something. So I'm for abandonment. Just make it all simple. I'm for abandonment.
If I may follow Reggie, I'd like to, Mr. Chair.
Please do.
Reggie has said it eloquently, and he spoke of respect, and I have the utmost respect for Reggie and how much time and effort he's put into this. And I also owe him thanks for covering me last night in the town hall that I called that extended this some weeks. But my intention, just to be clear, was to give the community every opportunity to speak about this and to have it on the public record. And Reggie attended where I couldn't, and I'm very thankful. But with all that said, this to me is a very clear decision for all of the reasons that Reggie has just laid out. And it is his district, but it's damn close to mine too, for as long as I'm the supervisor. And we gave everybody ample opportunity to speak of this. I think our constituents throughout the community have spoken pretty clearly that it's time for us to abandon this. The only thing I leave you with is that this is the perfect place to begin or continue our public space initiative, whereby we are trying to get every Middlesex person an opportunity to go enjoy what I believe are the best sunsets and sunrises and moonsets and moonrises on the planet. That happens by having public space. This is an opportunity we should not miss. We are already working with VDOT on trails in Deltaville that similarly have been kicked down the road, not because there are nefarious or lazy supervisors, but because it is hard to do this job correctly. And so I would just ask that we think seriously about adding public space in the form of a walking trail, a stroller trail, a running trail, and we should set a goal of having a trail for everybody, not just in Deltaville, not just at Haley's Pond, not just at Heritage Park, but post-COVID, what we are losing is community. And one way to get it back is public spaces. And I appreciate all of you for listening.
Thank you, John. I learned a lot at the town hall last night. One of the things that I learned was that there's a lot of nuanced difference between fixing the dam and fixing the road. And even if the Department of Transportation said, okay, we'll fix the road, they're not going to fix the dam. The dam is what makes the homeowner desire to be there, and it's privately owned. So VDOT's not going to come in, buy the dam property from Oscar Barber, rebuild the dam to the high risk standard, and then put their road on top. They might circumvent the dam and put a box, something. They might do that so that traffic could go through, but that's all the Department of Transportation would ever consider doing. They're not going to rebuild the dam. And I really applaud the homeowners association for stepping up and saying, we're willing to put the bill to fix this dam, even though it's not ours. So those are my comments.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say one more thing too. My attorney let me know that back in, when was that?
2010.
2010, when I was on the board. And we had the same issue is to close or abandon. I voted to abandon back then. But the board couldn't come up with consensus, so we ended up, VDOT said, we're gonna close it. And it's been closed for 18 years. That's the real issue. And I'm glad you pulled those minutes up, but that was really helping. And do you think VDOT, with the state is going to do something now? If they hadn't done nothing in 18 years? I mean, why go back and say, hey, y'all gonna look at this again after 18 years? That don't make sense to me, because they ain't gonna do nothing. It's just wasting time. If you're gonna sit back and Charles, every Lord I&T to say, hey, let's go give them some more time and see if they can do it. And nothing been done in 18 years. And I'll just let people know that, the citizens spoke. And just think about it. They say, hey, time is of the essence. We want to fix this dam. And have this road, not the road, but have the waterways and everything for the community, for the HOA to be good and clean. So, it's no brainer to me. That's all I can say, because I've been dealing for 18 years and it is what it is right now. And I just appreciate all you for waiting so long. I'm sorry you had to wait so long. I wish we could have put you somewhere in the front of this, because you sit here and wait there to the end, but it's all good. I think we're gonna have the consensus to do what you need to do down there.
And Mr. Chairman, I do have a recommendation if the board would like to hear it. I would recommend the board vote to start the abandonment process, and know that that's going to take a month and it's going to be very tight. I talked to Lee briefly last night. It's going to be very tight for us to make that time frame in order to have a public hearing on the November 8th meeting, but we can do it. We just got to get hustling, and I've got to post the street tomorrow, for instance, because the posting has to be done 30 days in advance of the hearing. We're not technically, and I'm gonna let the attorney talk about technicalities here, but we're not technically required to have a public hearing, but we would be if one person asked us to. So in an abundance of caution, go ahead and have the public hearing, have it on November 8th. And in the meantime, if the state wanted to bring some officials down here to look, welcome to, invite them to do it. I mean, I tend to agree. I think Wayne's exactly right. I don't think they can reverse their position on dams now because they've held that position statewide. Even if they had an abundance of infrastructure money, it would be turning an elephant in a bathtub at this point for them to go back and try to repair the dams in James City County, King William County, and other areas around the state. But a good point was made. You never know. So have them come down parallel to us starting the process. Either way, it doesn't hold the process up. They can come down and look between now and November 8th. And then we have that much more information for the public hearing. So you can kind of do both in the time space we have available. I don't think I'd recommend letting it linger into the new year. Because VDOT knows what they probably would need to do and how much it would cost. So my recommendation would be start that process on abandonment, try to get everything advertised and going for the November 8th meeting.
So what is the proper motion to do that?
I'll give it a shot if Heather wants to edit.
Oh, thank you, John. I'm sorry. Charlie's trying to speak. Charlie, they can't hear you unless you're at the mic. Sorry, John. Thank you, though.
Is the battery dead? We're not hearing you, Charlie. I'm sorry.
Come, you can come around to one of these. Marathon.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think we need to make sure we understand the definition of abandonment versus discontinued. It's my understanding, my conversation with Lee, that if you abandon the road, that means no traffic whatsoever. No walking on it, no riding your bike on it, walking your dogs or anything. If it's discontinued, then you can do that. You can ride your bike and walk and whatever else you want to do. So I think we need to understand what the definition is of abandonment versus discontinued.
So the nuance that I understand, and I know there's people in the audience who would like to help with this, but it's not part of our protocol. The county walks away from any obligation to provide any sort of walking or transit trail. It's private property.
That's
The
true.
private property owner can do whatever they wish with their property.
That's true. That's my understanding as well. And Oscar Barber owns the property.
Right.
So,
And Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I think, Charlie, you may not been privy to the memo that went to the board, but the board got a very lengthy memo on that very subject. So they do
Okay.
understand it different.
my apologies.
And I think my recommendation was clear. I mean, if we want to invite VDOT down to have them look, fine, but start the abandonment process.
There's no harm in that.
So in regards to a motion, I would ask the board to phrase it something to the effect of the desires to begin a motion to begin the abandonment process to include a public hearing scheduled for November.
So move from what you said.
Second for discussion. If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I was very confident until Charlie spoke. Are we saying abandonment means there's no chance at multi-use paths? Because that changes my opinion. And part of the reason this has taken so long is we have yet, for my sense, gotten clarity as to whether we can do anything with this between abandonment and discontinuement. My position is, I think, clear. I'd like to abandon it, but I'd like for us to consider doing more multi-use paths. If what I understood Charlie to say is that abandonment precludes us from doing that, then I'm going to be a stick in the mud. I'd like to better understand this. If any of you can explain it, I'm all ears, but I don't understand why there would be any desire to move forward without consideration of a public path where one already exists. I run it all the time. It's a beautiful path. It should be shared. Can someone tell me why and if abandonment precludes multi-use path?
I'll try and respond to that, John. If my neighbor wants to put a multi-use path across his property, he can do that, but I can't tell him to do it. And that, to me, is the same, is an analogy to this situation. The county abandons that road, and the private property owner, perhaps in conjunction with the homeowners association, can make it as accessible as they like, but it's up to them. It's not up to the county.
Respectfully, Lud, I disagree. We just put water and sewer in and spent a considerable amount of money procuring easements. I don't think we used eminent domain. I'm not recommending we ever use eminent domain, but the county absolutely has a role in providing public spaces. If we had a better role, we'd have a public beach by now. So we cannot abscond from these opportunities just because it's confusing as to the difference between abandonment and discontinuement, or because it's private property. That was a public road that was used for citizens to get from point A to point B. It has been discontinued or abandoned for all intents and purposes, but there's a better use available, and that is the role of government, whether it's private or public property. I know that'll make me unpopular, but the reality is that is a space that we, the public of Middlesex County, have used historically until 18 years ago. We already had somebody struck by a car last week because they wanted to run in Middlesex County. It is our responsibility to provide for the general welfare, I believe. It is our responsibility to have safe public roads. It is our responsibility to have traffic calming measures so that we don't rear end people while we're texting, because we're all texting even if we shouldn't be. There's a role for us here, and I think Oscar is somewhat available to discuss because he's been a partner on 80-20 deals that we just discussed at the airport. What am I missing?
Well, I don't, it's your opinion, John, so I don't think you're missing anything with respect to your opinion. I think everyone here is completely in favor of encouraging public running paths and walking paths and access to the general public. What I personally disagree with is that the county should obtain. We currently have no liability and no responsibility for that dam or the roadway. All we're doing is giving the permission for VDOT to consider it abandoned. And if we choose the abandonment path, then the county does not acquire responsibility or liability for the path or the dam. I don't think that it would be responsible for us to incur that responsibility and liability as a part of this process. That's just my opinion.
Lud, we're in violent agreement about what needs to happen for the dam. What I think you're overlooking, and this is again my opinion, is that we had somebody struck just last week on the road. There are people that want to run out here, and we as a county are supposed to be doing things. This opportunity's been here for 18 years. We've already talked about how we've kicked it down the road. All I'm asking is that we seriously take a look at the problems that we have in this community, where it's completely for cars to go up and down the Pooler Highway, and there's not much opportunity to enjoy the rest of the community. We've talked about this with the beaches. We've got the golf course owner saying that he'd like the dam to be restored because he'd like more access to his golf course. There are people, there is demand. They are our constituents. They want to be outside. They want to do it safely. We have a beautiful park. We have a beautiful sports complex. We have a lot of people that have put a lot of time, energy, and money into this. And my opinion remains that we still don't have adequate running and walking paths for people that want to get out and enjoy Middlesex County, whether they're black, white, poor, rich, waterfront, landowner, manufactured home, or any of the rest. All of us deserve public space. We have an opportunity. Thank you for explaining what my opinion is.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I appreciate everything that John said, but we got areas for walking trails and stuff like that, just like the sports complex. We got a track all the way around there. It's all depending on where you want to run. And then you got to be sensible where you run. The other day, some people can run in Urbana. It's not as busy on the back roads of Urbana. I've seen people run in Urbana all the time because it's not so busy and cars are not going 50, 60 miles an hour. And I just want to say that, you got to be smart and wise of things that you do when you do it, because things will happen anyway. I understand that. But if you're a runner, be careful where you run. And because you just can't run anywhere. We have the sports complex. We got a nice walking track around that. Or if you want to run around one of the schools or something, if it's available, you can do that. But there's always places to run in which you don't run. But I think we didn't beat this horse enough. I already made a motion, and I hadn't got a second yet, and we'll see what goes on from there. Or did I get a second?
You actually did get a second from me, and then you explained to me smart and wise. What I'm saying is you could have concluded that exact same soliloquy, Wayne, with we need more public space, and here's a perfect opportunity. Instead, you're saying I resist this because I just want to get the damn thing abandoned and be done with it. There's more to it. And if we avoid this opportunity because we're in a rush, so be it. And if somebody gets hit out on the road because they're not smart and wise enough to run on the track, so be it. But I will not support this if we don't actually consider public space. We don't have a beach right now, do we? How did that happen for 20 years, 40 years, 60 years? We passed on opportunities. We're doing it again if we don't actually talk about it. And if you guys are all of the mind that we're going to abandon it and the hell with it, then it's 4-1. Off we go. There you go.
All right. I'm gonna take the high road. You have a nice day.
Reggie, do you have any other comments? And if not.
You know,
then we'll
just
call
others, then I won't get along with it because I know how I feel about it. I asked at one of our meetings about putting signs and bike things on the side of 33. And so people have a place to run and also have to walk right out there on 33. I brought it up more than one time. I had 100 and some names to sign a piece of paper that's saying, that's what they do. They're bikers and they're runners. And we have the extra sidewalk, so it wouldn't cost as much to VDOT to do this. And yet it's been approximately 2 years, nothing been done. And the sad part about the same thing is, I said it then, and nobody else on the board or anything else said anything about this space. Okay, we have it right there. It won't happen. They could have did it, that particular thing, much or nothing. Now we want to tie it into something else, like we political, and all we talking about is abandonment, so the homeowners can take care of what they need and protection of their property. Then we talk about trails. Well, remember, I was born and raised in the country, okay? I could show you a trail that you could run, but people don't run them no more, okay? They just don't run them. You have to spend some money on it, but I'm not going to end it to another project. And if the county would want to do something like that, we talking about a horse of a different race. So we got to stop holding back progress. We do enough of that anyway. And let this thing get on and go to the next step. That's all I got to say, Lud. Appreciate you. I'll come back. All right.
Okay. Don, do you have any other comments?
Well, the only comment I have is if in response to you, John, if you abandon the road, the easement goes back to the landowner. If you discontinue the road, the easement is still on the county. So, talking about a walkway or anything like that, the only way you'd be able to do that is for the easement to go back to the county, for that portion of the road under the discontinuous option. That creates a whole nother slate of some issues that the county could possibly have if you went that direction. Abandonment is the only way to go, and that converts the easement back to the landowner, which in turn, if the HOA and the landowner were to get their heads together and decide they want to make a path, a walking path, or whatever they want to do, they could do that, but the county would have no ability to control any of that.
All right, I feel like we've had adequate discussion here. Can we go ahead with roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Harris, the motion was to begin the abandonment process with a public hearing scheduled for the November 8th board meeting. And just for clarification, there will be opportunities to vote on this subject at least once, if not twice, depending on procedurally how the board wants to move forward. But there will be at least another time in which the board has to take a majority vote to officially abandon it, and there'll be a resolution prepared to that effect. And we do have to give notice to the state, which would be the Commonwealth, the Transportation Board and the Commissioner of Highways. So we've got to tell everybody and put signs up. So
Yeah, I think the last time we did that, our local residency helped guide us through that process. So probably one of the first calls Heather and I will make, if not tonight, then in the morning, is to lead to start that, help guide that process.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand what we're saying here. I understand the motion. And you're gonna follow up with the state to see if it, if there's any interest in anything or what's going on with that.
I mean, unless the board doesn't want me to, I mean, they can do that anyway. I can make a call and say, hey, come and look and see if there are other options that may exist today that didn't exist back in 2013 or 2010. But I'd be happy to do that.
I'd hope you do that and that would satisfy.
I mean, if
my
that's all right with the
curiosity.
board. I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, please do. Okay. All right. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Jesse,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Coons,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Is there any new business? Any new business? Very good. Matters presented by the board. Mr. Jesse, would you like to start?
Yeah, I attended Wings and Wheels and also Middle Peninsula Planning District. Matt covered most of that, but I also wanted to say the Wetland Board. Gloucester decided that they want to discontinue, do away with the Wetland Board. And then also Matthews, but my understanding that, we don't really have any serious problem, with our Wetland Board. They do a good job. And anytime you need permits and things you need done, you don't have to go all the way down to VMRC down in Hampton. But I think Matthews and King and Queen done it many years ago, but they don't have all the waterways we have either. But they also, they talked about that. So they're gonna do away with those boards and let the citizens go down to Hampton. So that's what they want to do. But I just hope that, I just told them that, we support them, but we're still gonna do what we need to do here for our citizens. Also attended the Unity program that was last Sunday, was very well attended in Alabama. That's where, as you know, all the churches get together on one Sunday and just preach the word. It was very, very well attended and very good on that. Let's see, anything else I went to? That's it for me for my committee reports.
I continue to go to the school board meetings. We also, since the last meeting, had an EDA steering committee meeting. And the EDA had a meeting as well. And I tried to attend both of those. Complex committee on lighting, etc. We have a meeting about once a month. We had one about a week ago, and we'll continue to meet this Thursday to talk about what's going on with the complex. And that's pretty much all for me.
Thank you. John, any matters for the board?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I intend to resign on October 31st. from the board because I'm moving to Atlanta. There's a horrible. Anyway, I just wanted to thank individually each of the 4 current supervisors. Wayne, I'm sorry I got frustrated with you just now, but I know that you and I have been aligned on almost everything for 6 of your 600 years on the board. And it occurred to me some years ago when we were arguing about a budget that all 5 of us at that time agreed on 99.98% of the actual funding. And we spent a lot of time arguing about a small percentage, and we do every year. I've learned a lot from you, Wayne, from you, Reggie, from you, Lud, from you, Don. I came in and I thought I knew everything. I also want to thank Bob LaBeouf, because he knew more than I thought, and I was hard on him too. But in my service to this community, that was the role that I sort of assumed. I don't know that anybody assigned it to me, but it was time for us to be a little harder on ourselves and do more with less. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I want to let you guys all know, and the administration as well for damn sure, and all the public school and everybody that works for this community, that it has been a great pleasure to serve this community, even though I'm not from here. It's been a great pleasure to raise my family here. And I look forward to working with you as a civilian, because that's how it works. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you for your dedication and commitment to the county, John. Reggie, you have matters for the board?
Not really, I've been kind of like laid up for the last 6 weeks or more, but just in saying, I was thinking about what John was saying, and being here all your life, Mills is a special place. And I've been saying that from day one. And a gentleman down Whiting's Creek, and he was talking, and he asked me, I asked him, why did you come to Middlesex? And he said, I like it being quiet, being peaceful. And I said, how you found it? He said, well, I looked it up, and he'd been here about 5 years at a particular time. And I said, how do you like it now? You've been here 5 years. I told him where I live at, where the schools and all that stuff was at. And I said, something, for 60 some odd years, I've been saying the same thing, that I liked it in Middlesex County. A lot of things that goes on that I don't like. But I said, I'll sum it up all like this. For the Middlesex people that lived and bred here, people come here because of us. And we got to make it right by them and not being foolish over foolish things. So we just got to remember God is good. Remember, Jay, God is good.
Thank you, Reggie. Feels so mundane in what I'm about to say. No, actually, I have really a wonderful serious matter. This is a letter from Chesterfield County from the chair of the Matoka District Supervisor of Chesterfield County Board of Supervisors. On behalf of Chesterfield County Board of Supervisors, I write to express my sincerest appreciation for the planning and actions recently taken by Middlesex County, particularly the Sheriff's Office, to provide mutual aid during a time of need and great sadness within our own public safety family. Our staff and the family of Captain Jason Ware are forever grateful for the outpouring of kindness and support shown by Middlesex, which provided us invaluable time to honor Jason, comfort his family, and begin our own healing from such a loss. Such regional cooperation is a blessing and something Chesterfield does not take for granted. While so much of what we do regionally can be overshadowed by local needs day to day, we know it's the outstanding cooperation that exists among neighboring jurisdictions that maintains our collective readiness to meet challenges, great and small. My Board of Supervisors colleagues and I could not be prouder of the way Middlesex and our other regional partners came together to honor Jason and his family and to ensure that the delivery of public safety services within our community was uninterrupted while we said goodbye to one of our own. For this, we are a grateful community. Please extend to your public safety family Chesterfield's very best. We remain humbled by Middlesex's generosity and support, and we stand ready to reciprocate at any moment's notice. It's a beautiful letter. The other thing I would report is I have been keeping the board apprised of progress on Broad Creek and the need for dredging there. The survey work by the Corps of Engineers is well ahead of schedule. We actually got survey of Broad Creek about 15 minutes before the start of this meeting. And that will allow identification of the hot spots that need to be dredged immediately so that the soil there can be tested. The spoil sites approved for that, and then we can go out for bids to spot dredge and make sure the Broad Creek stays open. So that's good news. There being only one other matter for this section of the meeting, and that is I'll open the floor for public comment. Would anyone wish to address the board at this time?
I'm still having a hard time hearing that microphone. We might have another issue because we have power on it.
Just a minute, Kevin. Anne Marie's walking over to check it. There we go.
Hi there.
Thank you, Emery.
Okay, a couple of matters related to the airport. I was interested in the presentation and the board package today. My reference for building out any more future development on the airport in at least the foreseeable future would be what was described as option one on the west side of the runway. I think that's going to be more cost effective. The layout plan, I assume the Board of Supervisors, once it's more finalized, I assume it's draft now. I assume the Board of Supervisors would need to approve that, as has been the case in the past. I'd ask that the board consider maybe don't go hog wild on airport expansion of facilities. This isn't Atlanta, Hartsfield, or Dulles. And I'm not sure the benefit of building a bunch of housing for airplanes that aren't owned by property owners in the county. I guess we'd get some tax revenue from that, but there's cost associated to the local people in the area in terms of nuisance, and also with a busier airport, there's more safety concerns for those of us on the ground. So I'd ask that the county try to temper the expectations with those things being considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Would anybody else like to address the board? In this session, you have 3 minutes.
That's okay. I'm due at another meeting at 6. Tim Earnhardt, do I give my address to? Need to 66 Burning Tree Road, Hartfield, Virginia. president of the HOA of Healy's Mill Pond. Again, just want to say thank you, first of all, for your consideration and the process that you've gone through and steps that are being taken, very much so. And I want to assure also, I wasn't sure which gentleman was speaking earlier about the walking trails and all that. But you know, it's our commitment for those of us to fix this thing, to get it to a level where we can walk across it, you know, and make it safe again to walk across it, and people run across it if they want to and all that as well. We're not at this moment looking to close the whole thing and keeping everybody from, you know, making it totally private in that sense. So I just wanted to share that so that, you know, you're aware of what our intention are as we move future to clean it off, get it fixed, and make it back to, you know, a nice place to walk, a nice place to run, and a safe place. And that's our main purpose. So again, I just want to say thank you to all and appreciate the steps that you're taking. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Oh, y'all can't get away from me not hearing from me again. Thank you so much. To watch the process, I mean, this has been a real nail biter for us, I have to say, and it's not just this one day, it's not this one week, but it's been many years at this. So I appreciate what it took to get here, but trust me, the work that we have done behind the scenes, researching, engineers lined up, everything that we have ready to go to save our dam. And I have the utmost respect for John. I've worked with him a little bit here and there. He's a good boots on the ground guy. And part of the whole reason we're doing this is to keep our people, our entire community, to be able to go out, to enjoy the pond, to enjoy recreation, to enjoy walking. Since that road has been closed, I go up and down it all the time. People walk their dogs, and it's not just our community. They're coming from all over, and they're enjoying this beautiful little spot. And just as Tim said, we're not looking to be exclusive and cut, you know, build a bridge across, build fences on either side. We welcome these people who come and walk and enjoy our community. And so we'd like to share it. At James City County, I don't know if you're aware, but they did abandon. They abandoned that, and they put 2 cul-de-sacs on either side. It's in the works. When I talked to Lee McKnight's predecessor, I was told that it was already in the works for this county to have cul-de-sacs on either side. And that was supposed to have gone into the 6-year plan. 7 years ago, at some point, it was supposed to have gone. And the reason that conversation came up is because I talked to the board, the transportation, I forget his name, I'm terrible at that, but it's been years, because their buses were turning around right in the entrance to our burning tree, one of our roads, which is a private road. We were having to grade it and do all the rest of this. And I said, what's going on? And oh no, we're going to put cul-de-sacs there. Don't worry. Years and years ago. So here we are. I'm so happy to be looking at the culmination of this and moving on to something better for everyone, except for the cars. I'm sorry about the cars. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vivian.
I was gonna say, I just wanted to note the record that was Mrs. Vivian Black.
Anybody else like to address the board? I'll close the public comment period, and we will be in recess until 7 o'clock.